gentlemen, and welcome to cyberspace. You know, Toby like that one. This is Q&A with Deputy Presidential Press Secretary, Mr. Smith Toby. We are coming to you live from Atlanta, Georgia. Mr. Toby, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Okay, so let me say thanks to the team. Again, there's another great Sunday. We are always pleased to be on your platform. We want to welcome your viewers joining us on today. We are very happy that we've come again to discuss national issues. We are hoping that whatever we are about to discuss here will be in the interest of our country, and we hope the viewers will join in respectfully and be the good listeners and wonderful participants. So I'm happy that we are back here with you on today.
And we are glad to have you, Mr. Toby. We appreciate your consistency coming here to discuss national issues. We are thankful that you can join us every other Sunday to shed light on what's going on at the Executive Mansion. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is yet another edition of Q&A with Honorable Smith Toby. So, Mr. Toby, let's start by saying that we were shocked. We have some back-to-back deaths of people that are associated with auditing in Liberia. So the government and the people of Liberia, we are all bereaved.
Yeah, so again, our sympathy, like we've done and continue to do, to those family members who lost their relatives and friends and loved ones in the last few weeks. It's been troubling, not just for the family, but it's been troubling for us as a nation with the suspicious death of those individuals as reported. And again, as a responsible government headed by the president, we are looking forward to what is being done in terms of our security apparatus, to look into the cause of those viral deaths. 4 different deaths with different narrative. It is alarming and it is also scary.
Right.
But again, as a country, we will not lose our focus. And that is why there's an ongoing investigation. We are hoping that the investigation will help us all understand what have gone wrong, what happened in those instances that led to the death of those individuals.
Right. And what is alarming and scary of it all is that all of them have to be auditors or people performing some form of audit. 3 from the LRA, 1 from the IAA. Are you scared?
Well, I said here, sometimes I still walk and look on top of my shoulder. You know, I have my own story here in Liberia, and today, up to the minute, the government still investigating it, haven't even brought out a reason. If you follow my development here in the country, you heard at a certain point in time I was in my house.
Right.
And they left me in the house and they put the entire house on fire. Yeah, God being God, I survived that situation. Up to today's date, I'm still looking for the perpetrators. Who have been dead in the same month of October. Then it should be 3 years. It should be 3 years now. The police still tells me they are investigating and looking for the perpetrator of that crime. But again, we are all working, we all live in the country, and it makes no sense for anyone to take away anyone's life.
Yeah.
And that is why, because we lack the capacity, we lack the professional capacity in going after cases as reported.
Yeah.
And because of our lack of capacity, the government of the day understands that no matter how we go about in our individual quest to have this situation resolved, it's going to be difficult until we bring in foreign intervention.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was based on that backdrop that the president thought to extend a request of help through the chargé d'affaires of the U.S. Embassy here to help all of us understand what went wrong. Because
and talking about that, Mr. Toby, did the president, was it a formal request? Because we heard the information minister saying that, has there been letter written or anything formal to the American government for this help?
So I'm sure that whatever the president put out to the public, it means that it is official. The president is having a very good working relationship with the ambassador accredited near this capital, or the chargé d'affaires accredited near this capital. They've been in constant talk. He's in constant talk with not just the U.S. ambassador or U.S. chargé d'affaires. He's in constant conversation with other diplomats accredited near this capital. So that request came from the president. And of course, he's asked them to join our security apparatus so that we all can answer the hard questions. Because if we continue to sit on the fence and shift the curve and put the perception here and there, we will not get to the bottom of this.
Yeah.
There have been cases here in this country that people found dead. They've done all of the autopsy the family requested for, but they haven't seen the perpetrators of those deaths. Yeah. I'm sure that President Weah want to get this straight. And to get this straight is for us to have some help from out there. Yeah. And we are hoping that the Americans that he've asked to respond or will respond in the timely fashion, so that all of the speculations, claim and counterclaim can be laid to rest, and we can go to the bottom of this and go after those who are sitting somewhere. And if those deaths are natural death, the investigation will show us. If those deaths are man-made contribution, then we get to know and find out who are those or were those involved in those deaths.
But Mr. Toby, you just mentioned that yours have taken 3 years when people try to set your house on fire with you inside. You know, with that, and after 3 years, police still investigating. Do we have hope in this one that the perpetrators will be brought to justice?
Well, I'm sure my situation happened on a different administration then. And every administration has their own way of approaching situation. Okay. The situation that affected me then happened under the administration of former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, even though seeing cream of police officers and investigators still lingered around here. We are not hoping to repeat those endless investigations without results. That also bordered on the character of a government. If the government is to set a good human rights record or set a good precedent, they need to start an investigation and end an investigation. So if we had a situation in the past administration that took 3 years or more, and we haven't gotten a result, we are not hoping that this administration will repeat the same. Yeah. So with all of the interest in this, and the government attention and the international community attention, with all of the professional people, I want to call them professional people. I hear people refer to all of them as auditors. They all work in an auditing institution, but I'm not sure they all were auditors. But again, we are looking forward to the day that we can lay hands on what actually happened with Gifty and the gentleman on the Broad Street, and again the gentleman involved in the accident. In fact, the guy from RAA, a very personal friend of mine, will work here doing the Taylor's administration. So it tells you how that death also come close to me. So we are all very concerned. I went to the home during the morning of the situation. I've gone to see what actually happened. And I'm sitting here, I'm also broken because Abati Niswa was a very close friend of mine as well. and we are all saddened by those deaths.
Our condolence, Mr. Toby. So do you know that if the president gets briefing, because this kind of death are so alarming, does the president get any briefing regarding those deaths?
Yeah, so once there's an ongoing investigation, it means that the head of states gets briefed as to the status of the investigation. We are hearing that the government have equally invited the family or the families of those deceased to form a part of the ongoing situation with the pathologist coming in to conduct an autopsy. The government has said they want, through the Justice Ministry, they've had series of discussion with the family, urging them to be represented every step along the way, so that we can have those doubts clear from the family side, from the government side, and even from those who are interested. Again, seeing what happens when there is a pathology or an autopsy being conducted on a body is so scary. But again, if we are to get to the bottom of what is now the suspicion of claims and counterclaims as to how they die, those bodies are going to go through those various stages of autopsy, which is sometimes very terrible to see.
Yeah, and people are also concerned about the protecting the crime scene. So because even before you call people to help, the scene have to be protected. You're not a security person, but do you know that those kind of things those safeguards are put into place so that in case the Americans come to help us, we still have those crime scene intact so that they can do thorough investigation?
Well, our Liberian mentality, no disrespect to us as Liberian people, but I'm sure you've been following some of the scene reported on the social media, even before the police got to the scene. The first scene on the Broad Street, that scene was already polluted because individuals opened the door. It was not the police that opened the door. Before the police got on the scene, there was Facebook Live all over the place. People were already reporting and encroaching on the crime scene. For investigators to go after fingerprints, handprint, footprint, and all of those things is for people to respect crime scene. But our society and some of our brothers and sisters sometimes pretend to be helping in the process. But in the quest of helping out of ignorance, they already at times pollute the crime scene before the investigators get on the scene. So we've had those situations along the way, but we are hoping that what our security apparatus were able to gather will help sufficiently in bringing to justice or finding out what actually happened at those various crime scenes.
Let's come back to the president briefings. Do we know exactly which groups or the agencies that are briefing the president on these ongoing suspicious deaths?
Well, the country has the Attorney General headed by the Justice Minister. There's also a national security team that is headed by a national security advisor that advises the president. So the president gets briefing from the Minister of Justice and also in a direct conversation with his national security advisor, will speak to him on security relation issues. So it is not individual security officer or police officer that is briefing the president. So if the president is not talking to his Minister of Justice on the issue, he's talking to his national security advisor who's bringing those issues security related.
Okay. We heard the president commented on the first death, that's the one in the car on Broad Street, that they were killed. And he also understood that it could boyfriend and girlfriend issue, but he made mention of things like that. Was the president speaking based on his briefing?
Well, the president was not emphatic in that comments.
Yeah.
So that comment did not come as a direct a statement from the president to the issue. when the president referred to us being a Christian country and seeing how wicked, seeing the things we've said here, the country is turning. And if we are a Christian nation, we ought to behave like one. It is not possible to wake up in the morning and see a male and a female in a vehicle, and some people say it's a boyfriend and girlfriend kind of. So those were the kind of a scenario the president was putting out. So he was speaking to the conscience of Liberians, taking our country as a Christian country, and not to wake up in the morning and see the male and the female body in a vehicle, and without any conclusion. People started to say the people, were having intimate, affairs. So there was all sort of different story. No one have gotten to the point that they've connected the jigsaw or the puzzle to get to the bottom of it. So when the president was speaking to the conscience of Liberians, telling us about our Christianity and the beauty of our country, and people should not be fast to get into conclusion of seeing a male and a female a body in a vehicle. It is not possible to jump to that conclusion that those people were lovers. But again, we hope that the investigation will help all of us to understand, their relationship, their situation. There are several different stories that we have heard, but we are not in the position to disclose those information because it is an ongoing investigation. And once that investigation gets concluded, the appropriate authority will brief the nation about the status of the investigation.
Yeah, and that's why some of us were taken aback, because the president also said that people who were deported from the U.S. are back in the country, are, being the ones behind some of those crimes. And so making mention, and he said that because that they were killed. So when you say that they were killed, it means that somebody did it. So I was wondering whether that was part of his briefing, that people deported from the U.S. might have been responsible and they were actually killed or they died naturally.
So if the president had a conclusion, I'm not sure we will be at this point with an investigation asking others to help us into the investigation. So
do those comments interfere with the ongoing investigation?
So those comments that you are alluding to, the portion of which I'm referencing to you, I did not hear the president talked about accusing people from the U.S. or deportees from the U.S., for example, because the president has no conclusion whether those who were involved into the act were deportees. So for you to allude that the president was accusing people from the U.S., I'm not sure that that was something the president made mention of, that people who came from the U.S. or deportees from the U.S. were involved. There is no signal, a single finger pointing. You're hearing all sort of names here. You hear talk show hosts sit in their comfort and accuse people in government. You hear people in the public accuse people in different sectors. So with all these claims and counterclaims, only the investigation supported by the help that the government is seeking will help us to understand how these individuals die, because you could put all of the perception, the speculation, and 1 minute somebody will tell you it's somebody from government that is behind this. Another minute someone will tell you that the guys were involved into an audit that was damaging, but they haven't brought out the audit though. They haven't shown us the audits, those audits that were damaging, that the individuals who passed were working on, that led to the death. So if they have those information, the best thing they can do to support the process is to help the investigation. It is not possible to sit in your comfort and make those allegations against people, repetition, without bringing forth the hardcore evidence. We are all looking for the evidence here and there. So anyone out there with a piece of evidence, again, they came up, they accused a bank, that the bank had a CCTV camera that was in the proximity of where the situation happened. The bank had to come out during the course of the week to rebut that, that statement, because their camera could not reach the range of where the situation happened. But again, people took it to the social media. They accused another institution of having the footage of the vehicle, the individual. So all of those different stories we are hearing and accusing fingers of individual, only the investigation can help us.
And Mr. Toby, that's why I did not make any reference to those statements around the social media. What I was specifically referencing was the president's comments regarding people coming, deportees, being responsible for some of those crimes, which he actually said, and also that the boyfriend or girlfriend, and using the word kill instead of die, which pointed to the fact that the president knew something. Maybe he was being briefed that they were actually killed, and that people from the United States deported might have been responsible. But if you don't know much about that, but that was what the president said. Okay, so
yeah,
let's.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, yeah, make your comments and then we move on to the next issue.
Yeah, so I'm just sticking to what I heard.
Yeah.
Maybe we are hearing things differently. So
no,
based on what I based on what I heard the president spoke about the day after that situation, I'm sure that statement came out of church. Yes. Where the president was speaking, and he made reference to that comment that you're trying to reference to the issue. I was looking at it from the point that he was speaking about us being a Christian nation. So those other comments that I didn't hear that you heard, again, the best thing we can all do is to be patient. We have to put trust in our system. Sometimes it's difficult to do with all of the pains in our heart, but we can all sit here and accuse, one another about their involvement into these deaths. But the bottom line of it all will give us a picture once there is an independent investigation conducted that Liberians have to be a little bit more patient about, so that the government and the investigators can do their work. Because without us allowing the professionals to do their job, we will all have different narrative of the situation. If you speak to those who are on the street and on the scene, some of those who polluted the crime scene, they got different story. They're telling you the man trousers were found on another street. The man pants was found in another vehicle. So with all of what people are saying, we can draw any conclusion to those comments. We all need to be a little bit more patient and wait for the investigation to be conducted, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, and we are patient, even though it's very painful. We are scary.
It is painful, but only the investigation can help us out.
Yeah, we'll do that, and we encourage the president to refrain from any comments that will kind of give us some notion that because when the president is using a bullet pulpit, so when he is bulletproof, so when he speaks, we believe him, and so we have. But let's move on to two developments that happened. As the Gorbachev market, the new Douala market, and of course the 14 military city happened before that. Good news, things are happening.
So which one are you interested in?
All of them. So let's start with we discussed the 14 military city. The new Douala market is not 14, right?
Which one?
The Douala market is not 14. It's only the military.
No, it's not 14.
So let's start with the funding. I think like the Gorbachev market, it was the Japanese government, the Liberian government. Same with the Douala market, if I'm correct. So just talk to me about the funding, where the money is coming from.
Well, again, those were discussions long before COVID, and I'm sure the discussion of the president have started yielding some very fruitful results. Those were projects in the pipeline before we got hit by this global pandemic that has stalled most of our development around the world, brought them to a standstill. So the Japanese government and the government of Liberia has been in this conversation for a very long time. So they promised to work along with the government, the president's vision to take our marketeers from those dilapidated market structures across the country. It is not just Monrovia. We're talking about some of it being constructed in other parts of the country, but we'll talk about that as we progress. So the first phase of the project was to do the 14th Gorbachev market, which of course was estimated around $3.8 million.
Let's go to the Douala market. I think we discussed.
So the Douala market is in the tune of the same $3.8 million. It's going to be another complex built in the Douala suburb of the city. Again, the logic beyond that, like we said, those marketers who's been selling in that community have sold their markets in a very harsh terrain. The structure being there for a very long time is now living beyond the age of it. And so what the president thought to do was to put in the beautiful structure that you've already put on your podcast here this evening, so that it can accommodate thousands of marketers. It's going to be done on the ground floor and upper floor, so that the already congested Douala suburb can get decongested and make way for our marketers to have some very decent movement in their space of work, and to keep them out of the street, because it's almost like those who are selling in the Douala area are selling on the driveway, on the main road. So they're going to put that entire facility in a fence with other facility that will accommodate the building for the usage of the market here. So the government of Liberia feel very pleased, happy that the government of Japan have lived up to the commitment. They started moving in the materials to begin the process. Is 11 months. So as of the date of the groundbreaking, 11 months to that day, we should have that complex completed.
Mr. Toby, what I've always wondered about, and I love market, we all go in the market, but in the during this time of economic downturn, let me ask it this way: what has been done that this market construction is going to yield the kind of economic boost that we're looking for? Why is building markets at this time so important instead of putting the money to the place that will jolt the economy?
So if people going to the market is not considered helping the economy, then I don't know what more will help our economy. Besides that, countries around the world that are closing the shopping malls and normal business transaction are having the effect of what is happening in the economy. If people are not going out to buy food, buy groceries, or maybe get needed things to run their homes, how do we get money circulating in the market or in our economy? So those projects were long before the status of our economy. So the president would not divert the fund for another purpose. It is not something that came for the economy to go direct into something else that will boost the economy. Those discussions started before we got to this point of the COVID-19. So if the donors still hold the commitment that we promise you that we'll do you this structure or these structures in community A, B, and C, and the funds are available to do the project, the government, as a responsible government, would not divert the fund to another project. So the government is going back, they are going back the plan, even though the economy is challenged, but those funds were being secured for a specific project. So to stay on course with your partner is to stay with what you agree with them.
Thank you. So those funds were, those projects were, earmarked long before President Weah came to power. Is that what you're saying? And,
no.
Okay.
So
let me just end. Okay, so those projects were started long ago. The Japanese government is funding the project along with the Liberian government. Why is it important that the president puts a name on such project?
So those two projects did not start before President Weah administration. Those two projects did not start before his administration.
Agreed.
The Douala market is not 14 14 dollar market.
So
it is not. It is.
The money is coming from the pen and Liberian government. So why does it have to be named after the president?
So every administration got their own way of doing what they want to do.
You like this one that the administration is doing?
So I see nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
I see nothing wrong with that.
Okay. We saw the dedication of the Gorbachev market. And there we saw the president doing the zombie dance.
Well, I think the president has developed a way, because when we talking and doing some very serious business, that zombie dance now, I'm sure, is the signature move of the president in the last few outings. So the last time we talked about it here, right. Oh, it was so much in your skin. And the president does that for
let me stop you right there, because people, when you ask a question, people say it's in your skin. We have to ask the question. So when we discuss that zombie dance, we saw the president doing it again. Was the president doubling down, or what was he trying to accomplish there?
No, I think the president is just excited about what he see happens on his watch. And since people are not talking about the bigger picture of what the occasion is, but rather they are being carried away by, oh, the president is dancing zombie dance, so the president will do more zombie dance.
Right, he's doubling down.
Yeah, so he will do more of those freestyle. He cheer up his supporters and his crowd and Liberians who goes to follow him on those occasions. The first time he did that, many persons were very surprised, but he's done it more than once. Right. So it also tells you that he feel alive, he feel excited, and if it is his way of cheering up his crowd and his supporter at a function, he's going to do that as often as possible. There's a bigger picture to the occasion than what the president does with doing zombie dance. So the zombie thing is just a minute. The president is also human, right?
Right. And but here's another picture. Here's another picture.
So where's another picture?
4 persons have died mysteriously. So within that time, when the president is doing a zombie dance at a function, people trying to say, but where is his humanity?
Well, for those who think the way you ask the question, I'm not sure they are being fair enough to even ask such a question. Every day people die. Whether they die by accident, whether their death is a natural death, but every day go to the mortuary. You see people in the thousands. If a Liberian died mysteriously and the government is doing absolutely nothing about it, the government would not shut down. The government would not close all of a developmental project. The president would not go on the podium and bring sadness to the country to weep before people get to know that he's serious about the death of 4 Liberians. So if his government is investigating and his work continued as a president, we should not put, his life or his government in the picture because we lost 4 of our own, in a situation that is being investigated. So the president should go to a function and open, the president have expressed his sympathy. He's instructed his government security apparatus to go after the case. He's invited other partners to join his government to find what went wrong. So should the president take that to a function and continue to talk about it, the president will speak to those issues once he's briefed, when there's an investigation that is concluded and the public needs to know where we are. The government will inform the public. But the president will go to those functions, whether it's groundbreaking, whether it's function with cabinet ministers or with diplomatic people, he's going to go to those functions. If the function dictates that the president will wake up to dance while he's going to the stage to speak, he goes to the stage to speak, he cheer on his crowd, he go to his speech, He read out what he want to read to the public. And the important thing is the occasion. Those things that we human add to our movement should not take us off the main subject matter. Again, a few months ago, we were discussing the president's singers. We were discussing the president's dress code. We were discussing just, so if the way people want to criticize the president on things that he does, they go and repeat the same things. Those who are saying the president are wearing slingers with African attire, see how many Liberians wearing that around here now. So they condemn, but
that's exactly the point, Mr. Toby, because the president set the tune for the country. So if the president is dancing zombie, we all dance zombie. If the president wearing sneaker, we all wear sneaker. So that's why people are very critical of what the president does, because we're going to follow him. We are his people.
But the thing about it, the president is also a human. He's not committing any crime.
No,
there's nothing constitutionally. There's nothing in our organic law that prevent the president from dressing the way he dresses. There's nothing in our jurisprudence that tells us that the president going to a function should not be joyous about going to the podium to address his crowd. So the president is committing no crime in that effect.
No crime at all. But in case of national tragedy, I was in America when 9/11 happened, and the whole America was at a standstill. Let's say if President Bush at that time was dancing or yama yama or dancing some pop star, then people would try to ask, I mean, this is a national tragedy, even though life goes on and the president is dancing. So I think where the president coming from.
But it is not equally right. It is not equally right to set the example that you are setting, because if we lost four persons in our country that and that situation is being investigated, it is not equally fair. It is not fair to compare that to a situation with 9/11. That 9/11, for example, that took place in the United States. That was so we did not declare the death of those 4 individuals, as a national disaster.
Why not?
Right?
Why not?
So that is why it is being investigated, because there are questions that need to be answered. So four persons died, 2 in a vehicle, one in an accident, another person allegedly fell from the Porsche. So those situations happen in different intervals, happen at different point in time, different location. It gave the security people more duty and more work to do. So once they are doing the job, we will not tie down the entire country, lock down the country, because we are investigating, and that investigation continues. Like I've said previously, it's for all of us watching and following with all of the zest and eager to know what went wrong, is to give the chance to those individuals. But to tie the president life to it, that the president should not dance zombie, or should not go to a function to speak, or he should not cheer up his crowd, that's not been fair to the president.
You mentioned more than once now about the president crowd or the president supporters. Who are these people? When you say the president crowd,
are you not aware the president has a support base? He got people who, no matter how others sees his administration, there are others who believe in his ideology, and they goes to function. They follow occasion, and when the president is speaking, you don't hear people clap their hands. You don't hear people cheer the president and motivate him to do what he's doing. So those are the president crowd. Those are the president supporters. Even though some people feel angry when there's a George Weah standing on the pulpit and speaking as head of state of Liberia, but even as that's the country. Everyone would not support his ideology. Those who support him will cheer him up and wish him well.
Right. I mean, the reason I ask is because he's the president of all Liberians. So when we start to dissect the population as the president crowd, these are other people who don't want to see the president stand up as president. These are
you not aware of that?
So when we try to segment the Liberian population now, then the president may be drawn into a place that he want to govern only his crowd.
No. So even for example, the market that he's building is not only for his supporters. That market will carry all of the political parties' actors, their family, their friends, their wives, their brothers and sisters goes to that market. But he cares less about that portion of it. He's working and putting up things in the country. But while it is true that he was breaking ground in Douala market, not all of the marketers came to cheer him up. while it is true that he's doing Gorbachev market, not all of the marketers there will support the idea, but it's an infrastructure that they all will support and benefit from. So he's not doing those things because some Liberians would not like him for that. So the country is already the way it is. There are people here who, no matter how Joe Weah built this country, Mr. President built this country, they will see everything wrong. And they are in our midst. It's no if and end about that one. People will see the reality and they place it the way they want to place it. So to tell me that the country is segmented and people are feeding the way they are feeding, and the president is no, the president moved. He's talking to all Liberians, but deep in his heart, he is aware that there are Liberians out there who still don't support his administration. But he's working because this is his administration. The time will come, after 6 years, he's going to go up for re-election. If Liberians believe that he's done well, they will give him the second term. If they feel that he's done nothing, they'll bring in a new administration and his left will continue. So once it is his administration, he's working as per the power invested in him. So those are not strange things.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. We are in conversation with Mr. Smith Toby. He's the Deputy Press Secretary to the President of the Republic of Liberia. Every other Sunday, we have Q&A with Mr. Smith Toby. So if you are joining us, our phone lines will be open shortly so that you can participate. We're already having some questions here. What Nelly Jones say, or Dennis, do you think everybody hit you? Dennis, do you think everyone hit you? Why ask such questions?
So you see, some people.
Dennis, do you eat because people are dead? So they are trying to play into your reasoning. But let's move on. This week there were some revelations from about the president from his one-time buddy, Mr. George Solo. Did you listen to that recording, or did the president happen to hear anything like that?
So you want me to respond to Mr. George Solo?
I don't know if you even heard it or if the president heard it.
Oh no, I listened to ask for Garland, who was also very embarrassed, to bring Mr. Solo on his platform. When people are frustrated and they get angry in their spirit, and the best thing they sometimes want to do is to do exactly what Josh did. And now I think it surprises me a lot for people now to think that everything or what all he said about President Weah is not true. So we should take it as a talking point. I would only want to dignify, Mr. Solo outbursts, because if you follow his story with the president to the CDC and with the activity then on to Mr. Benda Yuri to where he sits currently, you need to take your time to know about him, and then you know the kind of individual who was speaking about the president. They've been friends, yes, we agree, but if you are not part and parcel of the current makeup and you feel being left out, you speak your mind and speak your frustration. So I just think that Solo was speaking on several issues out of frustration, and that's his way to vent out his frustration.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm not privy to what their friendship was and who knew what and what they knew about each other. But in Liberia, they say we have a proverb that says, if an alligator comes from under the water and to tell you about crocodile, you have to listen. So these people were buddy. Mr. Solo rose to the top of the CDC. So when he comes up to say something about the president, people are listening, and I don't condone the profanity that dominated the show. But when I got past the profanity and all the things that he was saying, I was like, is the president hearing these things? And how is the president responding to that?
Well, I think President would never get distracted by those things. He take those things in his spirit, and knowing how people intend to pay him back for what he's done for some of his friends, including George Solo. And so he's leave them with their conscience. He thinks that his focus should be on the Liberian people. People who have interacted with this president will tell you something but far different if they are not angry. So look for people who know this president very well, who are not angry, and hear their hear their interaction.
But look for who will not be happy, who will not be angry. If all of you work for something, they were all part of the CDC and did all that. So if you are in government, it's time to enjoy the fruit of your labor. If you are out, wouldn't you be angry?
But Mr. Solo left the administration before the administration succeeded, before they won the election. He was no longer part of the party. He was supporting Mr. Benedict. You were here. I interviewed him several times when I was still on the radio, and we've had several interactions. And so he left the party long before the party succeeded. So if he served the party as a chairman emeritus, and then he did not see the party as a vibrant party, he left and joined Mr. Yue's political party. It meant that he was already done with the political ideology of his friend. So he moved on long since. So was it possible for President Weah to win the election and call his old-time friend? But it depends equally, how did he leave? Yeah. So,
ladies and gentlemen, this is Focus on Liberia. Q&A with Mr. Smith Toby comes your way every other Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And if you just join us, post your comments, questions, and we're going to read them. All right. Mr. Toby, we are having some technical issue at your end. Let me see, Mr. In the back room, please show the 14 military city so that we can see that before when Mr. Toby is back, we're going to ask a little more about that 14 military city. We just lost Mr. Smith Toby. So let me use that time to read some questions, some comments here. Nelly June said, Dennis, follow the president to build Sonnyboy down. This talk show host crazy or what? That's me. He's asking if I'm crazy. Sam Waller, please be serious. This is not the equivalent of 911. Koto Messiah, on what occasion was the president dancing zombie, Mr. Host? That was during the dedicating the Gorbachev market, if just in case you missed that. Sam Solo again say, asked about the progress made on electrifying the city. At the last briefing, a date 11/29 was cited as the end date. More comments here. Yeah, John Sonnenberg says, is he crazy or what? Marie Potter is using some profanity here. Is Obed, we did not declare the death of those 4 individuals as national disaster. He's quoting Mr. Toby. Florence Colley, the death of those people has brought fear over Liberia. Jerome Gaiman, the president has the largest base in the country. I say, boy, Mr. Host, please ask questions that in place, okay? Thank you, Mr. Isaac. Marie, the only thing we see is our head. Marie, we don't know what you're talking about, but why the Liberian focus on non-essential issue? Koto Weah, Johnny Sonny. All right, so Mr. Toby is back. Let's see if we can get Okay. Afonso Zulu, the president dances zombie dance because it's a playboy. Oh no, don't use those words on the president, sir. Uh, Emmanuel Zaza, how is number 14? All right, we will be getting our phone lines very quickly. So, Mr. Toby, you can come on now.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Okay, Mr. Toby, we'll go back before I bring in callers. I'll read in some comments, and those comments, some are even trying to attack the host. Something. Mr. Smith, let's talk about the 14 military city. I think we missed that. I wanted to show the pictures because these are 14 military city. Let's talk about also just briefly with the funding and the duration and who is it being built for? Is it regular people? Is it the military people and all that? Briefly.
Oh, I think that project is under the ambit of the National Housing Authority. So they form a partnership. It's a public partnership kind of a thing under the National Housing Authority. So the land was provided by the government of Liberia, and there is this partnership with the construction company owned by the foreign national, but they are building those units for people of different category. And so that's why the price tag varies. So they are to build 5,000 of those units to the current location. So it's a huge land space. And the reason why it's simply called the 14 military city, because it is just in the same environment or the same vicinity where the 14 military hospital is situated. And then it is around the military barracks, but it's on the flip side of the road. So once they are in the same block, they just start to call it the 14 military city because it is within that same vicinity. But it's 5,000 of those houses that range from 35,000 upward 100,000, 150,000. So it comes with different facility. There will be banks in there. There will be shopping mall. So it's a whole city of its own that is being built by the housing authority and their partners, but the government provided the land.
Thank you. Let me bring in our first caller to interact with Mr. Toby. Our first caller, Charles Quitty. Charles,
yes, sir. Yes. How are you?
I'm good.
It's a very good program. I've been listening to it for a couple of hours, for an hour now. Toby, I know that.
Mr. Toby, lower your. I mean, Mr. Quitty, lower your the volume of your. I think you are watching it on Facebook or somewhere. Please lower that volume.
Sure. Yes, sir. Yes. How are you? Okay. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. Smith will be trying his best. Okay. He's trying his best because I remember when I was in Liberia when they attacked Smith Toby's home. And the same people you were accusing, which was the government, now he's working for the government, and you would never say anything bad about the government. So I just wish him good luck.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Quitty. Let me bring in my next caller before Mr. Toby comes in, and that's Aliu Kamara. Go ahead, Aliu.
Yes, sir, Dennis. Thanks for having me. Mr. Toby, thank you so much for coming on the platform and being so civil in your elaboration. Let me just say, whatever good job that you guys are doing in Liberia, as far as the records are concerned, I don't know it, we don't see it, and we're very much in tune as to what's going on. But if there is any, let me be open to say congratulations for any job well done. The issue of nomenclature, George Weah, as the president of the quote-unquote indigenous, the people's president, the president that represents the masses, as you guys can sing, you know, all that stuff. What's going on? What is the government doing with regards to people dying, and those that are dying are indigenous? Is the government doing everything in its power as the government that claims to be the indigenous president? Is the indigenous government doing everything to protect the indigenous? When we talk about the nomenclature of the 14 whatever city, Smith, that is just wrong. That is a sign of dictatorship. I think you guys are living according to what the finance minister has said from what we are looking at from the outside. I think for some reason there's some kind of a benevolent dictatorship. It is a sign. Anywhere in the world where you see a sitting government, a sitting president build structures using public resources, and that president thereby name those properties after him or her, that is a sign of that particular benevolent dictatorship. So I just want to know, wouldn't it be okay that any place be named through an act of legislation and not by the president imposing? But that is, before I go, let me just make this. I'm wondering about the continuous celebration over things like market building. The president and us live in the diaspora, we live in the West. If they spend $2-3 million to build shopping centers, shopping complexes, where you have indoor stores and stuff like that. How can the president leave from Europe and America and building marketplaces, spending enormous amount of resources, and still believing that he's carrying out development? Our marketplaces development, are we not still repeating the days of the 20s, the 50s, and the 60s? Are we going to bring new things that the Liberian people can see that, we talk about diaspora Liberia, your entire government is diaspora Liberia. Can we carry things that we see in the diaspora to Liberia as opposed to repeating the same things? Thank you.
Aliyu, before you go, you made mention of this indigenous, and does it matter if the people that are there are indigenous or non-indigenous? Should it matter how the president responds? I didn't get the point you were trying to make.
I'm making a point. My point here is the so-called indigenous people now, that's the slogan of the CDC, right? And they accuse the Congo, so to speak, which nothing like that do exist. They accuse them of massacring their people, of carrying out ritualistic killing back in the days. They embezzled their money, they stole their money, they carried out bad governance, they had a 2-week participation. So my point is, the point I'm driving at here is, if you claim that those people did all of those things to you, and now you take power, your people are dying mysteriously. What are you doing to protect the very people that you claim to be fighting?
Thank you, Aliyu. We don't know for a fact those who are dead, whether they are indigenous or Congo. So I don't want us to go that route, but thank you for your input.
I know for a fact that they are.
Okay, thank you. Let me get Mr. Smith response, then we open to 2 more callers.
So let me respond to the first caller before I come to Aliyu. Okay. He made mention that when my situation happened, you heard me accusing past administration. I think if you live in Liberia, like you rightly said, there is no evidence to anything that I've said during my situation when those individuals, unknown individuals, attempted burning the house while I was asleep. I did not accuse any political party. I did not accuse any government. Even with all of the attempts, the situation happened close to election. So that tells you how anyone could make or break their campaign for that situation. Some people in the public was accusing the government. Some people in the government was accusing the opposition, that is now the current administration. I personally did not accuse any single individual or government for what happened. What I did was that I submitted myself to the Liberia National Police. I provided them statement to aid them with their investigation, whether they took it seriously or they kept it in their files. I've not heard from them. I did not accuse any government for anything that happened to me. So for you to sit and say, because I'm working in government today, so I see nothing wrong, that is far from the truth. Okay. I thought to remain very reliant with God, and all I did was to report the case, the police, the international community, and I did not accuse anybody. That is why I'm still sitting where I am as a young man trying to survive with all other situations. To Aliu and the comments on the situation of market. The markets that the president is building, for example, Aliu, are not the markets that you left here 10 years ago. They are not the same structures. The facility that are now placed into those structures did not exist or haven't existed in any of our market structures. The environment created, I'm not sure those environments have existed in our country market space. So if the president travels a lot, he's saying what markets look in other places, and he thought that he want to change the ambient, he want to change the environment, he want to change the scenery of our market space. And he goes out there and talk to his international partners, and they decide to help him, build those structures with some funding, and the government of Liberia is playing her part. Those are things that we need to graciously accept. We don't have to build the Dubai shopping mall, for example. We don't have to go build the mall, the biggest mall in the Mall of America or the Mall of Liberia. But once the environment looks different, it is beautiful, and it's something that have never happened in our country's history. Those little development comes with some respect for the president. Our economy, our friendship, people out there will pick up when we start to put in donors funding to where it belongs. So if somebody comes and say they want to build a city, they want to build a country, they want to help us develop, we need to go by what we presented them. So it is what the president presented, and it is what has been funded. On the issue of people die and they are indigenous people, or you want to put them in the specific category, we are aware that we've lost Liberians in the last few weeks mysteriously. We are aware that to know why those mysterious deaths happens, whether they were natural or there were situations that were responsible for those deaths, the only clue that can help us in all of what you and others are claiming that happened is to launch an investigation.
Yeah, and you made that point, Mr. Toby. So I just
want to re-echo. Maybe he missed out on that point. So we are currently doing an investigation. That investigation will give us a leadway to what happened at those various sites and different instances that led to the death of those individuals.
Yeah,
so it is.
Yeah, go ahead. I want to bring in more color, but he also mentioned the naming things after yourself. And there's a new group that called the 14 Manning Cyber Warriors. So this name 14 is the president, and we are showing that on our screen now, the 14 Manning Cyber Warriors. And I believe that will be the group that will be on social media to act like some form of attack dogs. So do you know anything about the 14 Manning Cyber Warriors? Is the president aware?
No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure the president is aware. I heard you, the first time I heard it from you was just on today when I heard you mention 14 cyber warriors. Yeah. People want to make their contribution in whatever way. So the 14 is not the 14. I don't know. So are you now saying to me that 14 is President Weah?
No, I'm only asking the question. It looked like this 14 thing. Yeah, President Weah introduced 14 military city, 14 Gorbachev market. So now we see 14 manning 14 cyber warriors. And you love the name cyberspace.
Yeah, so those who think that they want to help monitor the cyberspace and looking for the name or connotation to add to their name, they equally have their right to give the names to whatever they want to call it. But those names are not sanctioned by the president. I'm not sure he's going to call a group of Liberians to go on the cyberspace and use the name 14 cyber warriors. It could be some Liberians who believe in him and think that they want to counter-check the cyberspace and call themselves 14 cyber warriors.
Yeah, sure. Let me bring in our next caller. That will be Dr. Batam Kula. Dr. Kula, you are live.
Hi, Mr. Smith. I want to thank you for coming every week to this gathering to, inform us on what the president is doing. However, what I would like to say is that you guys cannot continue to position what's going on in Liberia as a fight between the Congo people and the country people, or those who don't want a Faka Khan to be president, or those who don't want a Koji to be mayor, and actually look within yourselves, examine yourselves, and look at some of the incompetencies and the great ineptitudes and lapses that are being done clearly by those in government, and speak to those issues and make them better. If you do something wrong or you do something knee-jerk without thinking about it, come back to the people and say, yeah, we didn't think this thing through about making all the undergraduate schools free, but now we'll go back and look at the finances and how we're gonna fund it. We didn't do right on the investigation of 4 people that died mysteriously that seems to be connected one way or another to foul play. But next time we will put in the proper mechanisms in place to make sure that the crime scene is protected and that none of the crime scenes are contaminated, and we'll bring in people that have the credibility so that when we speak, our people will believe us. But what's happening right now, to be honest with you, a lot of time when you guys speak, it sounds like a chorus of people that are just praise singing and making excuses instead of doing what needs to be done. I remember you were in the private sector at one point in time as a journalist, and you had a friend that you all used to work together. This guy died. I never heard you speak on it about how this guy was brutalized before he died. Excuses were made again, over and over and over and over again. We keep making excuses. And then let's talk about Fagon. Fagon, how many people know that Eugene Fagon's mother is a Congo woman, but he's sitting there propagating this Congo country thing just for a job? It looks very sad. And for those of us who are of the lineage of the ethnicities of so-called country people, it makes all of us look bad, like we don't know what we're doing. So I pray to God, Mr. Smith, let me just close on this. I pray to God, Mr. Smith, that those around the president will stop lying to him and telling him he's the best president since 1847. That's not true. That the little market buildings that he's building are the best in the world. These are farmers markets. All people are only relegated to working in farmers markets, while the Lebanese get all of the contracts, the big contracts, and get rich, while people can't participate in the economy like he said they would. Let's do more than just lip service for our people and really get our people involved in the economy, and let's stop this us versus them thing and this thing about propaganda and thinking running a government is all about propaganda. That's not what it's about. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kula. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Focus on Liberia. We are in discussion. This is Q&A with Deputy Presidential Press Secretary, Mr. Smith Toby. He joins us every other Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern to discuss and answer questions as to what's going on in the president's office. And we still have more callers, but we have just lost Mr. Toby. So, but I will go on with the call so that I can read them to Toby when he comes back. So Toby is off. Steve, you are live. Go ahead. I will jot down your question and Toby will answer when he comes.
Thank you, Mr. Jha. Thank you so much. Thanks to Focus on Liberia for affording us the opportunity to call in to partake into this conversation. And also, personally, in as much that I would not like Toby to be coming here with bold face and be lying on a weekly basis, I mean, it's a choice of Focus on Liberia, because I would rather listen to somebody who will say the truth. But let's get to the issue, because I have a serious concern here for Mr. Toby. My concern is driven towards the invite that we see circulating on social media and on other outlets about the president inviting the U.S. or other partners stand to be corrected to be part of this entire investigation on the deaths of these 4 auditors. Would Mr. Toby please do us a favor as the public? He can even put it on the Marshal's website or put it somewhere public that we will see a copy of that invite, because I know for sure that in the diplomatic world, you don't just say to the public, oh, I invited these people. There will be some kind of written communication. It's not a verbal thing, has to be kept on file. Can you please make that communication available to us? And my next question is also drawn towards what this is in 2 segments. The first one is for the ruling party, but then the second one is also for the opposition. I wish they had someone from the opposition to answer this. Based on the Supreme Court last time, one of the justices there, said that she put a hold on this entire process until the voter rolls is cleared out or cleaned up. What is the government or the president saying about this? Does that mean that the date for December 8th is still going to be held? And if so, what is the president's position on what the Supreme Court wrote? Thank you so much, and I look forward to hearing from Smith. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Let me get Yusufu Soare.
Hey, Mr. Jha, how you doing today? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. Thanks for asking. I have a question for Mr. Toby.
Okay, go ahead.
There's this thing going around. There's this thing going around in Liberia. That has to do with investor. It's not going into the country because of protests, and people are not everywhere in the country protesting. But I want to also say this: with the proliferation of militant groups from the ruling party all over the country, every day in the street, and with the level of security system in the country, they say, okay, for investor to go on a such situation in the country, does that attract investor to the country as well? I want Mr. Toby to answer that question.
Thank you so much, Yusufu.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we lost Mr. Toby briefly, and so he's going to be joining us anytime from now. But the questions we got now waiting for Mr. Smith is one from Steve Bowler says, the invite circulating that the government of Liberia has asked the U.S. government to help in the ongoing investigation. If Mr. Toby can put that, or the government can put that up so we can see a copy of that. And also the Supreme Court, one justice said election should be put on hold until the voters' roll is cleaned up. Does that mean that the December 8th date for election still stand? Yusufu is asking about investors going into Liberia. People are saying that with constant protests that will discourage investors from going. But what he's asking, he calls the proliferation of militant groups, pro-government militant groups in the country. Is that something that's going to encourage investors? Let's go also to our comment section here. John Sunnyball Dan said the opposition really angry about the president. Jerome Gilman, Dr. Kulai and I are parts of the government. What investment do you have or you are doing. Okay, we're still waiting for Henry B. Cooper. The president is a good man, but some of his ministers are not good. Bill Willie, if you think Smith is lying, then why are you asking him? Bartholomew Wilson, Dennis needs to protect the guests and ensure callers stick to the issues. He allowed Dr. Kula to erroneously proceed with the native Congo divide. I'm not sure he was listening to Smith Toby, but Dennis needed to checkmate him. Still more comments from our callers. I love the last two callers. They hit the point. That's from Alexander Hayes. Widow Gill, our president is the best president in Liberia history, like it or not. That's from Widow Goldchild. Joe Joseph, President Weah is the best president in the history of Liberia. I don't know what the yardstick is, but we'll read the question as they come. Moses, this is strange and very revealing. So the news outlets and other government entities cannot make the case for the government. Who and how are they going to be financed? I think he's talking about the projects. Robin Draper, please ask about the process for obtaining mortgage for the housing projects. Mr. Toby, if you come back, please, how do we get into those houses? Still more question. Dave Jassy, Liberia is in a sad state. There is no outside of the box thinking. Weah is acting like any Liberian self-absorbed tyrant of Liberia. He's honoring himself with government projects and international goodwill. This is sad. Toby, you know the next government will undo all of that. Tonu Quimini, what is the driving force behind the president's desire to name almost everything after himself? We still don't have Toby here. We still don't have him. I will continue to read more comments as we wait for him. Robin Draper, but marketplaces or market women are small businesses. Caller, if you live in the West, you should be aware that small businesses help to stimulate the economy. That is why Western government invests in small businesses like mom and pop shop. Jusu Joseph Kaba, Aliyu is another disappointed opposition. Please ask Aliyu what is his achievement back home, since he claimed that building market is not necessary. Mr. Aliyu Kamara, somebody is after you here. So those are some of the questions. Sorry, we can't read everything. Steve Clinton, it is sad that everything that is done in Monrovia and we have abandoned the rest of the country. Thank you, and keep your questions coming. We don't have Mr. Toby, so from all indications, let me get some signal from the back room if we can end the broadcast without Mr. Toby, or we can get more callers to come in quickly. Oh no, we have closed the calling line. Another question we're going to ask Mr. Toby is on the confirmation of nominees. If we see that nominees are getting confirmed, we just wanted to get an update on that process and a few of the other things that we need an update on. But it is what it is. We're going to end the broadcast for now. We thank Mr. Toby as usual for joining us. Q&A with Mr. Smith Toby comes on every other Sunday at 2. And I just want to address a few concerns before we continue. There are some, I saw some comments who say, well, Mr. Toby is not telling the truth, so why invite him? To those people, we say Mr. Toby is gracious enough to come to join us every other Sunday at 2. We appreciate that very much. No matter how we feel about the government, that's the government we have, and we need to hear from the government. The government has an obligation for people to tell us what's going on. So Mr. Toby, we appreciate him coming. And we'll always, as long as he is available, call him here to ask questions. And we'd love to hear from him from the government perspective, especially someone who works directly with the president. We also have concern that people are saying when we have Mr. Toby, we should only ask him, questions on other things. Oh, Mr. Toby, the building market, how you feel? No, anytime we have someone from the government, we're going to ask the question based on what is in the news and based on what is in the minds of Liberians. The same way, if we have someone from the opposition, we're going to ask questions based on what is in the minds of Liberians so that we serve the general public and not just a specific segment of the population. We want to thank all of you for joining us today on our Focus on Liberia. Keep tuned at 4 o'clock. We're going to be here with On Point with Jerome Gilman and Edward Doe. Also at 6 o'clock, we're going to have a roundtable discussion on the murders in Monrovia. That is the 4 mysterious deaths in Monrovia. We're going to have assembled 6 Liberians from different professional background to brainstorm on what's happening and what can we do about it. Again, we want to say thanks for joining us today. On behalf of all of us here at Focus on Liberia, my name is Dennis Jack, closing on behalf of the crew. Join us again next Sunday, same time, for another edition of Q&A with Mr. Smith Toby. Bye-bye, and God bless you.
We are Liberians.